In 2025, artificial intelligence uncovered something buried in one of history's most mysterious relics, the Shroud of Turin. Once dismissed as a medieval forgery, new AI analysis revealed hidden patterns, 3D depth data, and geometric structures invisible to the human eye. Scientists were stunned. Was this just ancient linen, or a kind of encoded message? The shroud may no longer be a symbol of faith alone, but a mathematical archive far stranger than we ever imagined. The mystery cloth. The cloth known as the Shroud of Turin is approximately 14 feet long by about 3.7 feet wide. A linen textile bearing the faint front and back image of a man, believers claim it wrapped Jesus Christ after his crucifixion around OD 30 to 33. Skeptics point out that the first documented public display begins in 1354 CE in Lire, France. According to historians, there is no reliable record of its whereabouts before the mid-14th century. Physically, the image is unusually superficial. The discoloration penetrates only the very top fibers of the linen, in some analyses only a few hundred nanometers. This is not a typical painting in which pigment saturates threads or is visibly layered. Instead, the image appears as a delicate tone shift on the topmost fibrils. In 1898, photographer Secondo Pia first took a picture of the cloth and discovered the image looked like a photographic negative, a startling and unexpected result. Over decades, the mystery deepened. Why does the image behave unlike any known medieval painting or imprint? Why is the front and back image aligned? Why does it retain three-dimensional data when analyzed by devices such as the VP-8 image analyzer? These questions turn the cloth from a relic of faith into a puzzle for science and art alike. The suggestion emerged, perhaps this is more than a textile relic. What if the image hides coded information, a blueprint of geometry, depth, and meaning rather than mere representation? The idea that the cloth may function as an archive rather than an artwork would change how we view it. The world has debated the cloth's age for decades. Was it a medieval creation, or did it originate in the 1st century? The next section explores that core question, the age debate. From the 1988 radiocarbon tests to newer spectroscopic geochemical methods, the implications of its date stretch from art history to the heart of faith and science. Medieval or ancient? In 1988, 3 laboratories, Oxford, Zurich, and Arizona, performed radiocarbon dating on a sample of the cloth and concluded a date range of 1260 to 1390 CE, pointing to a medieval origin. That result aligned with the first documented exhibit of the cloth in the 1350s, reinforcing the view that the cloth was a product of the late Middle Ages. However, critics pointed out problems. The dated sample came from a corner region of the cloth, which had been repaired after a 1532 fire. Contamination and the presence of later threads, cotton, plant gum, raised the possibility that the test sample was not representative of the whole linen. More recently, methods such as wide-angle X-ray scattering, WAXS, and other geochemical spectroscopic techniques have suggested the linen fabric could date to 55 to 74 CE, placing it near the era of Jesus. These claims remain contested and not universally accepted, but they highlight how the debate is far from settled. The result of all this, the age remains unresolved, but the uncertainty makes any new findings, such as AI pattern analysis or geometric encoding, far more dramatic. If the cloth dates from the 1st century, the implications differ radically from a 14th century artwork. Date aside, the nature of the image itself raises deeper questions. Whatever era it comes from, the image behaves in ways unlike any known painting or cloth imprint. The 3rd section unpacks the unusual features, its negative quality, its three-dimensional encoding, its superficial nature. What does it tell us about how the image was formed, and by whom or what process?
The unusual image.
The image on the cloth does not resemble a traditional painting. There are no visible brushstrokes, no layering of pigment, no directional hatching typical of art. Instead, the discoloration is ultra-thin. Just the topmost fibrils of the linen threads are altered. In fact, it was only with the advent of photography that the image's true nature emerged. In 1898, Pia's negative revealed a lifelike positive image, a startling reversal of expectation. Beyond that, the image encodes three-dimensional information. When photos of the cloth were processed by the VP8 image analyzer, an analog computer designed for terrain imagery, the results showed relief. Features such as the nose protruded, hollows receded, as if the image were a topographic map, not a flat painting. That phenomenon is unique. Few other works show this sort of depth data without explicit 3D modeling. The mystery deepens when one asks, if the cloth were draped around a full human body, the fabric would deform, distort, fold, stretch. But analyses show minimal distortion. The proportions remain remarkably consistent. Researchers such as Cicero Moraes used virtual cloth draping and found the image fits better to a low-relief sculpture imprint than a 3D body wrapping. In simple terms, the image acts less like a freeze frame of a corpse and more like coded geometry. Distances between eyes, rib curvature, hand spacing reflect consistent ratios rather than artistic freedom. This raises questions. Was the cloth created via a process of imprinting using unknown technology, or is it a masterpiece of medieval art using forgotten skill? If the image holds geometric encoding and depth data, then the question becomes, how was it formed? Not by paint, not by simple contact, but possibly by energy or pattern-based imprinting. The next section introduces how artificial intelligence has now entered the debate, revealing hidden patterns beyond what human eyes saw. AI enters the field, hidden patterns revealed. In 2025, a peer-reviewed paper titled Artificial Intelligence Analysis of Images of the Shroud of Turin applied principal component analysis, PCA, and neural network techniques to high-resolution photographs of the cloth. The authors found that the vast majority of meaningful information is contained in image intensity, brightness, rather than color or pigment variations. This is a startling result because it implies the image encodes data in a way conventional painting cannot. The AI differentiated the intensity map and demonstrated consistent three-dimensional encoding. Darker areas correspond to closer proximity between cloth and body form, lighter areas to further distance. One headline described this as a radiation-like signal embedded in the linen. That the algorithm isolated these patterns independent of human bias raises profound questions about how the image was formed. Beyond that, the AI discovered repeating symmetries and geometric ratios across the face, chest, and hands, structures invisible to the unaided human eye, but coherent when mapped algorithmically. These patterns suggest a blueprint-level design rather than ad hoc artistry. The authors suggest the image may carry encoded information or an archive of spatial data, not merely a relic imprint. For the first time, machine learning activated a new dimension of study. The shroud isn't just analyzed by chemistry or textile science, it's processed as data. Whether this proves authenticity or forgery is not yet settled, but the AI findings force a recalibration of the debate. The veil of art versus artifice is thinning. Having established that the image contains hidden patterns, the next question becomes, what kind of structure are those patterns? Are they random anomalies, or do they carry geometry, mathematics, and spatial logic? In the next section, we dig into the evidence that the cloth encodes mathematical harmony, ratios, symmetries, and blueprint-like features that challenge both medieval forger and modern scientist alike. Geometric blueprints and mathematical harmony. The AI-driven analysis revealed that proportions on the shroud, such as the distance between eyes, length of fingers, rib curvature, hand spacing, adhere to consistent geometric ratios rather than freehand variation. This suggests the image may have been produced with deliberate scaffolding. Such geometric harmony is more typical of architectural design or musical ratio than of isotropic artistry. One study compared the body image to a low-relief sculpture rather than a body wrap, arguing the proportions and minimal distortion match what would be expected if cloth was pressed over a shallow carved form. The implication, the image is not just a representation, but a coded imprint of three-dimensional geometry. The picture that emerges is almost holographic. The cloth seems to carry depth information numerically encoded, so that when processed with a VP8 image analyzer, developed by NASA, the image resolves into a 3D relief map. This is not found in typical paintings or prints. If the image is a geometric archive, then the question becomes, what created it? a medieval artisan with extraordinary unknown technique, or a process that transcends known technology? Either answer stretches our understanding of art, science, and history. Geometry alone won't explain how the image formed. To explain superficial depth, photographic negative behavior, 3D encoding, and blueprint-like features, we must revisit formation theories. In the next section, we compare the traditional scenarios, medieval forgery, imprint from a body wrap, with alternative hypotheses involving energy bursts, radiation, or unknown physics. Formation theories revisited. The traditional explanation posits that the shroud was created in the medieval period, perhaps between 1260 and 1390 CE, as a devotional artwork supported by radiocarbon tests. Under this scenario, an artisan applied pigment or imprint methods, and the object gained sacred value over centuries. However, the physics-based hypothesis suggests the image was formed by a burst of energy or radiation emanating from the body or cloth itself. The ultra-thin staining depth, hundreds of nanometers, and the photographic negative effect discovered in 1898 support this. The AI findings, intensity encoding, 3D faithfulness, geometric scaffolding, amplify this possibility. A key study by Brazilian 3D designer Cicero Moraes, published in Archaeometry in 2025, found that 3D virtual draping over a human body produced distortion, whereas draping over a low-relief sculpture better matched the cloth's image. Thus, the imprint may not come from a wrapped corpse, but from a carved form. The notion of artifact versus archive deepens. Neither explanation is fully accepted. A medieval forger would need skills, tools, and methods far ahead of the era. A radiation event model demands physics we still don't fully understand. The choice between artifice and anomaly remains unresolved, and perhaps the most extraordinary revelation is that we may lack the language to describe what created the cloth. The AI shock. In June 2025, a peer-reviewed article titled Artificial Intelligence Analysis of Images of the Shroud of Turin was published in the International Journal of Archaeology, Volume 13, Issue 1. The author, Thomas McAvoy, used neural networks and principal component analysis, PCA, on high-resolution linen scans. He found that image intensity, brightness, carried almost all the meaningful information, more than color or pigment variation. What stunned researchers was the discovery of consistent three-dimensional encoding within the image. Differential image intensity revealed depth data. Darker zones corresponded to cloth closer to the body, lighter zones to further distance. The study described this effect as a radiation-like signal embedded in the fabric. Even more surprising, geometric symmetries and repeating ratios appeared across the face, hands, and torso, proportions that align with architectural and musical harmonies. These patterns are extremely unlikely in an ordinary painting or imprint, raising the possibility that the shroud functions as a kind of coded archive, not simply as a devotional cloth. For scientists, this means the shroud must be reframed not just as a historical or religious object, but as a data-rich artifact. The very tools of machine learning extracted signals invisible to the naked eye. Whether this discovery points to authenticity, advanced medieval artistry, or an unknown process, nothing about the cloth can now be taken for granted. With AI imposing a new layer of complexity, the question moves from, is it real, to how? How was the image formed? Traditional painting theories struggle. Geometry, depth data, and image intensity suggest something unusual. The next section dives into those geometric blueprints, the hidden harmonies and numerical scaffolding that lie beneath the surface of the shroud's fabric. Geometric blueprints and mathematical harmony. The AI findings prompted detailed follow-up studies. One independent paper, May 2025, by Dawn Higgins, titled Geometric and Numerical Correlations in the Shroud of Turin, Advances in Anthropology, Volume 15, explored the dimensions of the cloth, approximately 4.4 meters by approximately 1.1 meters, approximately 14.4 feet by approximately 3.6 feet. She showed that converting those dimensions into inches, 172.8 inches by 43.2 inches, yields numbers deeply embedded in ancient systems. 1728 and 432 are significant in sexagesimal and harmonic frameworks. Furthermore, the distance between anatomical features on the image, eyes, hands, rib curvature, correlate precisely with known architectural ratios. For example, the face width to forehead height approximates the golden mean constant, approximately 1.618, and the body length to foot spacing fits a 4:1 ratio, consistent with ancient sacred design. These aren't random discoveries, but appear to reflect deliberate encoding. Another key study by Brazilian digital designer Cícero Moraes, August 2025, in the journal Archaeometry, used virtual cloth draping tests and found the image's proportions fit better with a shallow low-relief sculpture than a full three-dimensional human body. He dubbed the distortion behavior the Agamemnon mask effect. These revelations don't just add detail, they demand a new narrative. The shroud may not simply capture a funeral imprint, it may encode geometry, depth, mathematics, and symbolism that turns the cloth into something far more complex than a relic. It becomes an artifact of information itself. If geometry and AI suggest deep encoding, the next logical question becomes, what formed the image? It's not enough to say a medieval forger or body contact. The formation requires explanation of three-dimensional encoding, ultra-thin discoloration, negative effect, and geometric precision. The next section contrasts the classic forgery versus physics formation theories and introduces an entirely new paradigm. Formation theories revisited. The standard model has long asserted the shroud is a medieval artwork produced between approximately 1260 to 1390 CE, based on radiocarbon dating performed in 1988 at Oxford, Zurich, and Arizona. Under this theory, an artisan applied pigment or direct imprint, and the cloth gained devotional status. However, the physics-based hypothesis emerges as compelling in light of the data. Observations such as the ultra-thin image depth, hundreds of nanometers, the negative image behavior noted by Secondo Pia in 1898, and now the AI-detected three-dimensional encoding point to a process beyond simple painting. Some research suggests a burst of radiation or energetic imprint that altered the linen fibers. Moraes' 3D modeling demonstrated that the distortions produced by draping cloth on a 3D body don't match the shroud's image. The low-relief sculpture model does. This raises possibilities. Was the artifact made by an advanced artisan using lost techniques? Or was it created via a process not yet understood by science? The authors of the 2025 paper argue that neither simple forgery nor known physics fully explains the evidence. In short, the shroud stands at the crossroads of art and anomaly. If one explanation holds, it reframes centuries of scholarship. Whether it is an extraordinary medieval creation or a result of unknown phenomenon, the stakes and the mystery are higher than ever. Having examined formation theories, the final question looms: what does all this mean? Is the shroud merely art, or an archive of something transcendent? The closing section contemplates the implications for faith, science, institutions, and culture, while asking the big question: artifact, archive, or anomaly? The big question. Is the shroud simply a devotional object crafted in the late Middle Ages by a superb but human hand? That remains the dominant position in many academic circles. Radiocarbon dates, medieval provenance, and stylistic arguments all support this artifact theory. But now we must entertain a second possibility. The cloth is an archive. Its image may carry encoded information, geometry, depth, radiation signature, something beyond artistry. If so, the shroud may record an event, a technology, or a phenomenon. The 2025 AI paper states, the image contains information that cannot be explained by natural degradation, painting, or printed contact alone. And then there is the third possibility: anomaly. Perhaps the shroud is neither conventional art nor replicable physics, but part of a process humanity does not yet understand. If so, it stands as one of the greatest mysteries linking theology, science, and history. It challenges our assumptions about materials, memory, and meaning. Whatever the verdict, the Shroud of Turin has become a case study in interdisciplinary insight. The custodians in Turin, the Vatican museums, materials scientists, computer analysts, and theologians all converge here. Whether you believe in miracles or methods, one fact remains. This linen cloth refuses to be ordinary. Its legacy may not be its authenticity, but its capacity to force us to ask new questions. Whether artifact, archive, or anomaly, the Shroud of Turin now challenges both science and belief. AI didn't solve the mystery, it deepened it. As more researchers apply machine learning and imaging tools, the fabric's secrets continue to unfold. And with every new pattern revealed, we're reminded that some relics may be more than memories. They may be messages. The question isn't just what the image shows, but how it got there, and what it means for all of us.